Welcome to Solutions with Courtney Anderson. I'm Courtney Anderson, and I am so thrilled that you took time out of your life to be part of the program today. Thank you for joining me. Our show today is episode number 164. 164, our 164th show. And that is just awesome. Thank you for being part of the community that has allowed us to have 164 shows. As always, I encourage you to leave ratings on iTunes or Stitcher or any other way that you're accessing our program. Let me know if you have show ideas or suggestions, and share our show on social media. Let the world know what we're doing over here with our program. I also want to ask you to support our show sponsors. When you come to CourtneyAnderson.com, which is our central website, you'll see our central blog. You'll see links to everything, our video programs, our audio programs like these, our daily shows, our articles, everything that we're putting together, and our upcoming webinars and other potential live events that we'll be putting forward in the next several months. So when you come to the show, also visit our show page. This is going to be episode 164. So come to that show page on the website. You'll see our links, and then please do, if there's anything that you think, oh, I'd be interested in that, or I wanted to get that, or yeah, I would maybe want to order one of those, please do so through our links on our website and support our show sponsors. Now, this program today is part of the Joyful Art of Business series. And of course, this is a series which is all about being very honest with ourselves. When we talk about work, whether it's paid or volunteer work, we need to expand the way that we assess our return on our investment and include how we feel. It's not enough to ask how much money I made, what type of tasks I accomplished, what other people think of my job title. How do I feel? If I feel horrible, if my stomach hurts and I have a headache and I feel like I'm going to get sick every time I have to go to work, then it's not the right thing. I was going to say it might not be, but it really isn't. We don't want to get in that situation where we're miserable, and we don't need to, but we have to be vigilant, and we have to be focused on understanding that how we feel, how excited, how passionate, how content we are overall is extremely important. And again, not every second of every moment of every day is going to be pure ecstasy. It's going to be like anything in life, ups and downs, ups and downs. But overall, more often than not, I should feel positive instead of feeling negative. Now, what specifically are we talking about? What specifically are we talking about today? Well, this to me is a really fun show. And I'm looking forward to it. So I am going to go ahead and look at the title. Our specific show today is why you have to apply for jobs you don't think you are qualified for. Why you have to apply for jobs you don't think you are qualified for. Now, one of the reasons I said it's a fun show is because this is one of those topics that, as we were looking at the show lineup and I was looking at the show schedule, and I was thinking, my goodness, how many times have I had a conversation exactly about this topic with someone I'm mentoring or coaching? And it's amazing. One of the things that when I say it's amazing and how many times I've had the conversation is because here's the deal. You're not going to win anything that you don't compete for. Right? And we know certainly that cliche, right? That 99% of life is just showing up. Well, there's something to that. If you're not even in the running, then you have 100% guaranteed you're not going to win. And I one of the, like I said, this comes up so much, and especially in the last several years when the economy contracted and we had all of the global economic pain, right? And so many people then were compelled into some sort of a change, right? And so basically they're, trying to locate a new career, a new position, a new job, a new opportunity. Okay. And so I'm thinking, I love the sort of the part of your life when you're sort of in total anticipation. and you're just waiting to see what's going to happen. I love that because it's exciting and it's interesting. And when I say I love that, I mean because that's where you don't know. That's when you're sort of like, wow, well, will someone provide a professional opportunity and I will be on my way to New Zealand? Will something happen and I will find myself in Miami? Will something happen and I will be exactly where I am right now, but in a completely different job doing something that is really interesting? You don't know. It's awesome. The thing is, you have to be strategic. And of course, I talk about strategy often. Of course, one of the things that I'm known as is, strategic leadership and strategic innovator. And the whole point there is you have to have a plan. What's the goal? How are you going to get there? What are we doing? Why are we doing this? And so when we look at something like jobs, career opportunities, it's a game. Not a game in a trivial way, but it's a game in that you have to have a strategy. What's the goal? And I'll have people when I'm mentoring and working with them individually coaching, they'll say, well, the goal is just to get a job. No, that's not a goal. You can get a job right now. You can go somewhere and get a job. It might be a very physically tiring job. It may be a job that you don't want to do. It may be a minimum wage job. It may be, awful. But you can get a job. So you don't want a job. That's not a strategy. And the main thing that I see that causes people challenges and hurts them financially in terms of the professional opportunities is that they take themselves out of the running. Why someone would do this is I just don't understand. It's illogical. The funnest part of life is the adventure part of it. Is the part, like I said, where you're waiting with anticipation. What's going to happen? I don't know. That's what's cool. That doesn't occur unless you put yourself out there so that people can then engage with you and offer you opportunities. If you refuse to be anywhere and engaged in potential opportunities, then nothing's going to change. And one of the weirdest things that I've witnessed is someone who intentionally, which this again is so illogical, decides ahead of time to not compete. You're not going to receive any opportunity that you're not up for. You have to be in the running. You have to be in the candidate pool. When you look at things like jobs, the strategy should be, I want the best job, not a job, because you can go get a job right now, right? Any part of the world I can go to, I can get a job. Maybe it won't be a legal job. Maybe it won't be a job that I want to do. Maybe it'll be a job in a horrible condition, but you can get a job. It just won't be a job that maybe support you or that's legal or that you want to do, but it exists. So that's not an answer. A strategy is, I want my best job. I want that best job for me. Now, you and I and everyone else in our community has very specific interests, ideas, desires, and needs. You have an ideal time schedule that you'd like to work on. You have an ideal physical location. You have an ideal lighting and sound that you'd like. You have an ideal situation in terms of how many people are going to be physically in the same space with you. You have an ideal situation in terms of how much technology you use. You have an ideal situation if you're indoors or outdoors. Where do you get all this information? From you. The first part of this and the weird part is people refuse to identify what it is that would make them happy. So instead of saying, here's who I am and here's the list of the top 10 things that would make me happy, what they do instead is they have no list, and then they run around and they only apply for jobs that are exactly like what they've already done and or what they've specifically trained for. And then they sit around and tell me in the coaching and mentoring sessions, they're so unhappy. Well, yeah, you're unhappy. You're doing everything backwards. You start the thing about get a job with what would be best for you. Do you like to work in the morning or night? Do you like to work a full schedule? Do you like to work a part-time schedule? Do you want to commute somewhere physically? Do you want to be somewhere in your place where you live and work virtually? Do you want to be around a lot of people or no people? You want to be indoors? You want to be outdoors? You want to be on your feet? You want to be sitting down? I mean, what do you want to do? And then you take those things you're looking for and you go out and you match your list of what would be best for you to as many of those things on your list with potential opportunities. That's how you do this. Now, this requires a lot more effort. That's true. The thing is, though, it amazes me when I say it's so weird. It's your life. This is entirely your life. How much time do you spend in your work? Especially for people, let's talk people with traditional full-time employment. This is going to be the predominant amount of time that you're going to invest is going to be in this work thing. How you're not going to make this the best it can be and take responsibility for your own contentment and happiness and joy, it doesn't make any sense to me. You start with what you want. And it may be, okay, I want to work outdoors. I'd like to be up and around walking as much as I can. I'd like to work with maybe just a few people or by myself. Okay, now we're talking. Those are qualities. Now we can go look for work that has those qualities. Is this going to be time consuming? Yes, of course it is. What's the alternative? I mean, is the alternative that what people do where they, oh, yeah, I've been an admin assistant and I really don't like it. And I went to school and I got a degree, but, all I'm applying for admin assistant and I already was bored, but I guess I'll just keep trying to do this. What? You have to entirely change your thinking. It's your life. The work is going to fit within your life. You need to think very seriously in a quiet place where you can access your thoughts, minimum distractions. What is it that makes you happiest? And don't tell me you don't know, because of course you do. If I ask you, do you want to work outdoors or indoors, you know the answer. If I ask you if you want to work on your feet or you want to work sitting down, you know the answer. If I ask you if you want to work starting early in the daylight or you'd like to work at night, you know the answer. So don't give me this stuff about you don't know, because when people say that, it really, really is frustrating, because you do know and I know you know. Now, why you don't want to tell me is a whole different question, which is part of what the show is about. Why aren't you telling yourself and why aren't you telling other people what you want? It may be because you don't feel you deserve that. It may be because you feel that you're not qualified for that. It may be because, a whole range of reasons why you feel that your happiness and contentment isn't important. But those are the real issues. And by skipping over the most important part of your work, which is supposed to be art. Remember, joyful art of business. This is supposed to be something that really works for you. So you have to start and end the whole thing with you. And you have got to think strategically. That means big picture. Okay. So here's how I look at work. One, I do what we just talked about. I make my list of how I like to work. So, for example, many decades ago when I was young, my teens, late teens, I had finished high school and I was in college, right? I was earning my bachelor's degree, so I needed money. So I went and needed to work. Okay, so what are my job skills? Not really much. I didn't really have any job skills. My first job was in a fast food restaurant, so that's sort of the only skill I had. I needed to work around my school schedule. And I know that I mostly am an introvert and prefer lots of quiet or few people. I don't like a lot of loud crowds. It takes my energy and it stresses me out and it causes anxiety sometimes. So I have no specialized skills. I'm 18 and the only job I've had before this is food service in a restaurant. With food prep, a little bit of waitressing. Okay, so what do? I think about how I want to work. I just talked about this. I want to work alone as much as I can. I need a schedule that has some flexibility to it so that I can, take care of my classes and studying and everything. So what's a job that's potentially in food service, because that's the only skill that I have, and that will have different hours, potentially different weeks, and will allow me to have some time either by myself or with a few people. Oh, delivery driver. Especially in the States, these jobs are very popular in many regions because people order food and you work at the restaurant, you take the food, you drive it to wherever they're delivering it, to their office or their house, then they pay for it, and then you give them the food, and then you get back in your car and you drive back to the store. Now, often you'll have multiple pieces of food to deliver to multiple addresses, but basically that's the job. What did it do? It fit most of my requirements. Most of the time I'm by myself. Where? In my car, driving around by myself. So that's what I like as an introvert. That was awesome. The other thing is that it had flexible schedules, because it was something where, Sometimes I could work days, sometimes I could work nights, sometimes I could work weekends around school. It also had cash. Many times you would get tips when you delivered the food. So see, it's fitting my goal. Now that's where I'm headed, food delivery driver. Had I worked as a delivery driver? No. But do I have a driver's license? Yes. And the reason I was going for that job is for something I just talked to you about. It fit my goals. It's working. It's working in my life. I'm very happy. The situation is the same today. I think about how I like to work. I think about the things that I do. I think about things that I enjoy. I go through my list of what makes me happy. And then I go find work that fits that. If I went out and took work, irrespective of what makes me happy. So if I took work at a big place that was full of people and a very extroverted environment, even though it may be great pay, it might be even prestigious or, by some people's measurement, I'd be unhappy. That's not going to work for me. So you have to put your own personality and traits and what your comfort level is up first. Now, you're not going to get everything on your list. Nobody gets everything. Even when you own your own business, you don't get everything you want because there's so many variables in the world you don't control. But you're going to get a lot of it. The thing is, if you absolutely do nothing and you just sit there and say, well, let me go look and see what jobs are posted, and then I'll apply for the jobs that are exactly like the job I just did, and then you complain that you're not challenged, you're bored, you're not excited, that this life isn't awesome, then who's responsible for that? You are. This show is all about why you have to apply for jobs you don't think you're qualified for, right? And again, I said that I think it's a fun show because I love applying because you never know what's going to happen. It's the excitement. Now, most of the time you apply for something, the number one answer you get most of the time is no. Not even a formal no, depending on where you are and culturally how people handle things, but it's some form of rejection. So sometimes they'll send you something and say, thank you so much for applying. At this time, we don't have any positions. Sometimes you'll never hear from them, but whatever, it's a no. That's the number one thing that's going to happen. It's a strategy. What you're doing is you're thinking big picture and you're asking yourself, okay, what are the different types of settings of opportunities that would fit some of the things on my list? And then you just start applying, and this is a really important point, and please listen to this. You apply for as many of them as possible. So you have a wide breadth to where you're applying. Now here's the second part of this though. You have to have a very pinpointed and job specific piece of content each time you apply. So even though you're applying to a broad amount of jobs, I'm literally arguing you need to apply to every single job that even remotely could potentially fit some of your criteria, right? What I'm also saying is when you apply, you need to create original, specific material for each of those jobs. So it might be that you have one type of resume or CV when you're applying for something in the education field. You may have a different type of field of CV when you're applying for something in the medical field. You may have a different type of CV if you're applying for something as an electrician. Okay, here's what I'm saying. The most important part of this is you, right? Remember? And it's all about your list of how you ideally would like to work. So, right? Indoor, outdoor, day, night, full-time, part-time, on your feet, working with, paper, working with people, like all of this is in your mind, right? Okay. Then you think about your skills. You're going to make an inventory list of your skills. And this is where people apparently, again, that same problem where I'll ask people, what do you want? Do you want to work outdoors, indoors? I don't know. Okay, you do know, so you're being dishonest. The other issues why you're being dishonest are something you need to work through. Maybe you need counseling, maybe you need to work with someone you trust or a friend or someone in your community, but you need to work through why you lied to yourself and other people about what you claim you don't know because you do know, right? Maybe it's because you don't think you deserve it, things of that nature. The second list that you need to have is the list that is of your skills. Because here's the thing about a job. What is a job? What are people paying you for when they give you when they hire you, right? When they give you a job, quote unquote. They're paying you for your skills. What can you do for them? So if the job is I need a mechanic who can repair most late model automobiles, then the skill I'm paying for is your ability to repair most late model automobiles at my garage. That's what I'm hiring. So they're hiring, they're paying for, they're compensating your skills. What are your skills? And this is the other part this is actually more frustrating than the first part where people tell me they don't know how they want to work, or they don't know what their interests are and their preferences, because that's not honest. You have a variety of skills. All of them you could use and deploy to make money. What do I mean? Okay, let's start with simple stuff. Um, so I was talking to someone doing a mentoring coaching session, right? And this person actually had multiple college degrees. Okay. So the person was totally focusing their job search on jobs that matched the type of degrees they had. That's not necessarily a good or bad thing. It's a starting point. But the thing that you're selling isn't your degree. What you're selling are your skills. The degrees and certifications and licenses that we have are only indicators. They're ways for people in societies who don't know each other, who haven't been lifelong best friends and relatives, to be able to verify that you actually do know what you're doing. So if I go to a hospital and I've never been in that hospital my whole life, somebody comes up to me and says they're, a doctor, how do I know that? Well, ideally, if they are licensed, that's a way for me to trust that somebody somewhere checked to make sure that they really know what they're talking about, that they actually have some sort of training and they actually know about medicine and they can help me, right? So when somebody has a degree, a license, certification, all those are shortcuts in a big society, because we don't all know each other and been around each other forever. If we all knew each other and were lifelong best friends and relatives, then I wouldn't have to ask for your certification, because I would have been there your whole life. I would have known that you went to medical school in Nebraska. I would have known how many years you were in your internship. I would have known all this because we're personal friends. We're relatives. I don't know it if we're strangers. So licenses and credentialing and all that is just a way and a shortcut, so that I don't have to go around one person trying to figure out, is that person who said they're a dentist really trained in that, or are they just some weird person wander off the street who has a fetish for teeth and is just going to stick weird stuff in my mouth and hurt me, or is just some weird person? Meaning they're not qualified, they don't know anything about dental health, and they just sort of randomly showed up. That's what the certifications are there for. So it's all a way to show what your skills are. And when I'm hiring someone, I'm hiring their skill. Are you a mechanic? Can you repair this thing? Are you a surgeon? Can you operate on this part of the body? I mean, that's all I'm doing, is hiring the skill. So when you go to make your list of what you're going to potentially engage in for job opportunities, you're going to make and I want this word to be heard. I want an exhaustive list, and I mean exhaustive list, of the skills you can sell. So you are not going to limit your list to just whatever it is that you studied somewhere, or just whatever you might have a certification in, or just the jobs that you've done before. I want exhaustive. Example, as I was sharing. So I'm talking to somebody, they have multiple college degrees. What are the list of skills? And then the person, I don't know. Well, my degrees, okay, that's a start. But let's start walking down the exhaustive list. I said, do you speak any languages? Well, yeah, of course. How many languages do you speak? Well, I speak 2 languages. I speak English and French. Okay, great. How fluent are you? Well, I'm talking to you right now. I mean, I'm really fluent in English, and French is my native language. I'm really fluent in French. Okay, so you have 2 different languages. What skills can you sell in those languages? I said, can you speak the languages? Yes. I said, can you write in the languages? Well, yes, I can. I can speak the languages. I can write in the languages. I said, could you edit somebody else's writing? Oh, yes, I could. Okay, so I'm seeing multiple jobs already. You could apply for anything that requires you to speak these languages, right? You could apply for anything that requires you to be able to read and to write these languages and or edit. There are many freelance services now with virtual companies where all they're doing is looking for people who have fluency in languages and that are really strong writers. And some of these are virtual work at home situations where you can go on to their service once they vet you and see that your credentials are what they say they are, and then you can just pick up assignments, and around your other life activities, you can do editing in whatever languages you speak. That already exists. It's a real thing right now. There are jobs where you can just speak a language. They just need you to speak it. Ideally, you need to read it and speak it. Okay, you can do telemarketing. You can do any type of phone work. If you speak more than one language, then I ask people. I always ask, can you translate? Can you translate between French and English? Well, yeah, I totally can. I do it all the time. You've never heard of a job as a translator? And then I'll ask things like, could you teach this language? Oh, yeah, I totally could teach this language. Okay, I'm giving you tons of jobs to apply for. Writing, speaking, translating, teaching. Are you see where we're going with this? Oh, I never thought of any of those things. That's normally the response I get. And the reason I say it like that is because I don't know how you don't think of this. You're a bundle of skills and a bundle of wonderful things and tools to deploy in the world and use for adventure and excitement and interest and change and financial opportunities. I went on to ask, as I always do in these conversations, do you have a ability to drive any do you have a license to drive? Oh yeah, I have a driver's license. There's another job. I mentioned the one I did a long time ago, delivering pizza, delivering food at a restaurant. You could be any kind of delivery service. Some places hire part-time, some places hire full-time. As of the time of recording this show, there's new technology. Again, I mentioned the virtual where you can sit somewhere and go, use your writing skills or your translating skills or your editing skills or your speaking skills over the internet for clients anywhere. You can also use your driving skills. You have a license. In many parts of the world, they have technology where they're trying to match up people with driver's license and want to sell that skill to give people who need rides, right? Oh, yeah, that's another skill. Yeah, exactly. I'll ask people, okay, um, do you have the ability to do any type of work with sales? Oh, yeah, I've done sales before. I'm pretty good at it. Oh, my goodness. If you can do sales, you can work in almost any industry. What is sales? It's the ability to close. It's the ability to provide, to present a provided service or product to someone and explain how it fits their needs and be there to support them, walk them through all the benefits and advantages, and then close the sale. You can do that in almost any industry, some of which are incredibly lucrative. And there are very few, relatively speaking, talented salespeople. Many people say, oh, well, no, I'm not any good at sales. And if that's accurate, that's fine. It just takes you out of the running. If you actually are good at sales, so I'm talking to the mentor. Oh, yeah, I love talking to people. It's one of my favorite things. I wish I could do more of that. Oh, my goodness. One of the jobs I held, again, many decades ago when I was in this period before I opened my law firm, so my late teens, early 20s. Again, I had ceased my delivery job in the restaurant industry, and I again needed more income. So I'm thinking, what would be something that I'd be really good at that could give me a higher income than just working for tips as a restaurant delivery driver? And and guess what? I realized I loved cars. I've always loved cars. I really have an interest in them. Uh, and so, long story short, I realized that I speak well. That's why the thing earlier was how many languages you speak. I don't care if you speak one language. Do you speak that language well? Because if you do, and you have a nice speaking voice, right? I have a nice speaking voice. You can use that, right? So I thought, okay, what can I do? Now this is the same situation in my life. I'm still young. I haven't finished school, so I don't have any degrees or anything. So I'm thinking, what can I do? Well, I researched and thought, okay, what's a job where you don't need really prior experience? You just need to be, really good at sales and could potentially pay good money, relatively speaking. Automobile salesperson, a car salesperson. So what did I do? I researched it. I saw that for some, depending on what type of dealership you work at and what type of sales you have, it could be really lucrative, much more lucrative than my right above minimum wage job in the food industry. So what did I do? I applied for and actually was hired, and I worked at a car dealership as a car salesperson. And I learned a whole bunch of things. I already love cars. So it allowed me to do nothing but learn about more cars and study cars. And this was a very nice dealership, so we had to take different exams about the products because you sales. So you need to understand what you're selling, right? And then it was fun because it was actually mostly quiet. Because during the day, it's not like a big crowd. It's not like you're working with 500 other people. There's a handful of salespeople and then a couple of other administrative people, and then senior management. So for an introvert, it was fine. There was a lot of quiet time. I could sit in my quiet little office, which I liked. That was much different than when I worked in delivery in the food service because I just in my car and then I was in the restaurant. So now I have like a nice office. I'm in air conditioning, which is another one of the things on my list because I'm an indoor person for my work, and it allowed me to meet some of the things I do well, right? I speak well, I read, I already like cars, and I'm good at sales. So boom, what did I do? Sold cars. I even won, if I remember correctly, some accolade for, salesperson or the whatever, because I like it so much. It was interesting. And I made a lot more money, right? So I can make a couple $100 a week as a delivery driver if things went well, right? I can make a couple $1,000 in the same time period as a car salesperson. See the difference? So now, someone would say to me, "Well, you never had been a car salesperson before. Did you know anything about that?" So the answer to all of that is, of course, I hadn't. I had never been a car salesperson before. I had never been a delivery driver before when I got my first delivery job, delivering. None of those are relevant. The point is, you need to look at this the way we're talking about it. The first part is your laundry list of your ideal preferences: indoor, outdoor, standing, sitting, lots of people, very few people, loud, quiet, all this kind of stuff. The second list, okay, right, are your skills, your skill inventory. And I said exhaustive, and I mean exhaustive. So anything you can speak or read or write, which also probably means you could teach it, if you can translate anything, if you have the ability to communicate with people well, which often if you can speak something, you communicate people well, if you have a personality where you don't mind doing that. If you have an interest in a specific type of thing. So like I said, I liked cars, so it was perfect for me to work at a car dealership because I liked cars already. I was interested in that. If you can drive, you can be a driver. Now you can go out and you don't even need to get a job, through another company. You can just independently sell your driving skills in many cities, right? Hey, I'm qualified, I'm licensed, here's my driving record, sign me up for this service, and I'm going to work when I feel like it, and I'll go, transport people, and I'll get paid, and it'll be a good extra income. Okay, your list of skills is long, it's exhaustive. It has nothing to do with what you've done in the past, even necessarily what you've studied or what you have a license or skill to do. It's what you're interested in, meeting what you really can do. And people scoff, "Oh, well, speaking a language is not anything." Are you kidding? Of course it's everything. How many people are excluded from a job because they can't speak that language or they can't read that language? Millions, billions in many instances. The fact that you can is an asset. Run with it. One of the things I talk to people all the time about, which again is so odd and weird to me, think about your skills, right? So it's literally the physical things you can do. So again, can you bend? Can you lift? Can you stand? Can you sit? Can you walk? If you have any type of other skills. So I've talked to people and they'll be talking and they'll say, "Oh, I'd love my fitness. I took some training and I'm actually a trained fitness person." There's a job right there. Are you serious? You know? And people say, "Well, as a kid, I was really good at tennis." There's a job. I don't care. Everything you're able to do that you have knowledge of and experience with or an intense interest or you have the ability to do it is a skill you can sell. And what you're trying to do is take this long list of skills you can sell, and trust me, it's long. When I talk to people, I'll say, "Well, all right, physically, are you able to bend and move?" "Yeah." "Could you move things? Like furniture or items?" "Oh, yeah, I guess I could." There's a part-time job. There's a full-time job if you really needed it. "Could you clean things?" "Well, I guess I could clean things." Boom, there you go, job. You make your list of your ideal preferences. And then you make, and I do mean an exhaustive list. Exhaustive list of your skills. Now, I know that some people will say, "Well, why would I care about whether or not I could be a driver when I have a degree in something and I don't care about driving?" I hear you. What I'm saying is when there's a competitive economy and or a crisis or you're in a bind and you need funds, you need to be able to deploy the skills you have to match those up with readily open and available income opportunities instead of sitting around worrying, digging yourself into debt, running up credit card debt, borrowing money from people, and freaking out. You need to be action oriented. What's the antidote to anxiety? It's action. If you have a list of skills and you keep them sharp, then when you need to, you can deploy them. And you want to move away from some sort of box thinking of job to what you're really doing is marketing all your different skills. And what you're ideally moving to is a situation where you can maximize your efficiency, where you can deploy the skills you enjoy, you can receive enough of a compensation or other reward structure that's important to you, and then you'll hone in your maximum time and energy on that. But you always need to have an idea of what your full range of skills are. We did programs a while ago now, early on in the show, because I told the story. It's a 3-part show where I told the story of how I started being a keynote and corporate trainer, how I became a speaker. I didn't even know that was a job or an industry or anything. I never even heard of it. And I was a lawyer. So it wasn't like I was sitting around my law firm thinking, what will I do with my law degree? And then I was like, oh, I'll go out and give speeches. I didn't even know that job existed. But I told the story in it's a 3-part show, right? About being a professional speaker. And basically I made my skill inventory. So what do? The same stuff many of these skills are the same 20 years ago and today, right? Driving, speaking, reading, writing, whatever. My Spanish used to be much more fluent. So I saw a job listing for somebody that spoke well and could give a presentation. It happened also needed somebody to talk about some work-related HR laws. Now, I wasn't necessarily focused on HR law as a lawyer. I was doing criminal defense. I was doing family law. I was doing, probate. But I knew enough of it, and I could study up on the rest of it that I needed. And I speak. The same speaking I use as a car salesperson, the same speaking I use I used to do telemarketing, right? I sit on the phone. I worked as a telemarketer where I sat on the phone for a company that sold credit cards, and I called people and tried to sell them a credit card. Same skill, speaking. I went and I flew to the client organization. It was in Kansas, and they gave a little speech, and they said, "Wow, you speak well." Now, of course, yeah. In addition to the fact that I've had speaking skills, but I've also been a lawyer, so I'm in court and I'm speaking, and I'm using these skills all the time, right? So what a coincidence. They don't care about what I do in court. It's not what they're interested in. What they're interested in is my ability to stand and give a speech that's, not boring, people stay awake, and then also potentially present programs and materials and content for their clients to have a very high return on investment in these continuing education programs. That's a win-win, right? Now, that was one little piece of my huge skill inventory list. I deployed it, and then as I started to deploy it, as I share in that 3-part program, I realized, wow, this is a much more interesting job in many ways. It's a lot of the stress that is very hard as a lawyer I'm not dealing with, right? It's fun, and in some ways, if I develop my skills over many years, as I've done, this is like 15 years ago, it could be even more lucrative. And it turned out that it was. How did I get there? My skill list. So the show asks and talks about you have to apply for jobs you don't think you're qualified for. The problem is that people lie to themselves. They lie to themselves when I ask them about their first list, about their preferences, and they'll tell me, I don't know if I want to be indoors or outdoors. I don't know if I like being around a lot of people. That's not true. So you need to make that list, honestly. The second thing, and the most pivotal part, is you're exhaustive. I don't care if you're a neurosurgeon. You need to put everything else on that list, right? That you drive, that you actually used to be a part-time chef, whatever you need to put everything on that list, because you're going to pull stuff out. And here's the beauty of why I said I love the excitement of anticipation. When you use your inventory list of skills that's exhaustive, it opens up all these opportunities that may or may not be related directly to other things that you're doing currently or that you studied or whatever. That's not really relevant, because it's going to open up all these new adventures that you don't even know what they are yet. So maybe somebody was a neurosurgeon, but when they really go through their list of their inventory of their skills, they realize cooking and being in a kitchen is their favorite thing. And before you know it, they make the transition, and now, wow, look at them. They're a much happier and better chef than they ever would have been when they were a neurosurgeon. The only way that happens is your inventory of skill list. It needs to be exhaustive. The other thing that is apparently a huge reason why people don't apply for things is because, again, as I said, it was weird because I don't know another more accurate term. Somebody decides, I guess, I don't know where they get this, but they decide in their own head, I'm going to limit myself to some imaginary fence. And this fence is going to keep me only in certain areas for the rest of my life and career. And usually what they do is say, well, my college degree was in finance and my current job is in finance, so I'll just go apply for another job in finance. And then when I'm asking them, are you happy? Are you engaged? Are you excited? No, not really. But this is what I do and this is what I know, and I'm not qualified for anything else. Now, that's a lie. I just sat here and told you you're qualified. I probably, for anybody that I sit down and do this coaching with, I can probably come up with 50 different things that you could go apply for right now with your skills you have right now. Part-time, full-time, international, domestic, work at your house, work at a big fancy place. I can sit there and come up with that based on listening to you and interviewing you and pulling teeth sometimes. Literally, it feels like pulling teeth to get you to tell me and admit to me what you're really interested in. I did a coaching session a while ago and I'm talking to the person. They're giving me this little fenced in version of stuff, but I know they're unhappy because that's what they told me initially before we even started working together. And then I said, we did a little exercise. I said, okay, imagine you've won the lottery and you've won 250 million US dollars. It's a reasonable amount of money by most people's standards, not everybody, but reasonable. And I said, okay, so now you've won 250 million US dollars. What do you do? What job do you go to? What work do you do? Oh, well, I would want to do catering and work in construction because I love real estate and houses, and then maybe do some other something. Now, that's nowhere near finance, which is what they've been rambling to me about and showing me a very weakly written resume, but it's because they have some weird limit, I guess they feel. Now I guess I sort of know where it comes from. Because when you go and apply for traditional jobs, right? How do you get to an interview? Now they use software, but they used to use people. And what basically happened is people look at a resume and they just match up words, right? So they're told the job requires, use of this software and it requires, whatever. And then they go look on the resume and see if it has those exact words on it. If it doesn't, then they don't move you to the next, evaluation phase. If it does, they do. That's all they're doing is keyword matching. Like I said, used to be by hand, now it's, by software. So that part of the strategy of this is actually easy. All you have to do then is go look at all the job postings that use the skills that you're interested in, see the keywords, and then put all those in your resume in a well-written, eloquent, beautiful document. Now, there's a whole separate program, and we're putting together an extended program to break down resumes and cover letters and show you how you write one that's amazing. So that you can stand out from the pool of bland resumes and cover letters, so that you can get people's attention and then move forward into the process of interviewing and hiring. That's a whole different program. But this thing where somebody says, well, I can only do X because I either do X, or that's what someone told me I do, or that's what my paperwork says. I guess it's because they're looking at it from that same standpoint of resume keyword matching, right? But that's ridiculous. Resume keyword matching is a really important and a advised part of a process, right? If I need somebody who's a veterinarian, then I need to find out, are you licensed as a veterinarian? Are you qualified as a veterinarian? I mean, that's intelligent and reasonable and rational. That doesn't have anything to do with this, what we're talking about. We're talking about you and your life. Of course, you have little tiny fences that you put up for specific things that you're doing. Like if you have something happen at your house where you live and you need a plumber, oh my goodness, my drains are messed up. I need to hire a plumber to come over here and unclog my drain so I can use my sink and my restroom. Then you need somebody to come out who's a plumber. So you're going to go look and use your own keyword search and try to find someone who has a business or who's marketed themselves as a plumbing service. And then you're going to contact them and say, hey, I'm over at this address. We have a plumbing problem. How much do you charge to send a plumber out? How soon can you send a plumber out? So that's what you're hiring, is that plumbing skill. Now, the person who may come to be your plumber may be a plumber and may also have been, I don't know, a driver, and may also be trained as an emergency medical technician, and may also have done a lot with working with woodworking. None of that's interesting to you at that moment. All you need is that one skill that you need, which is plumbing. They have that one skill. It's a perfect marriage. They come, they use that one skill, they fix the plumbing. You're delighted. You're a happy customer. They're a happy business person. Everybody's a win-win. But that plumbing isn't the totality of who that person is. That's just a skill that they deploy and use as and when they need it. And this is all about you being diversified. The thing is, you are diversified. Again, I can sit with anybody and come up with a laundry list of things that you can go right now. Exactly who you are as you are with everything that you have. And we can go make money. I can show you how to do that. You have to make it this exhaustive list. But then what you need to do ideally is start taking that list and matching it up over time with your preferences, right? The challenge, though, is that people have this, again, strange and very unhealthy limitation that they put on themselves for no reason at all. And then they'll fight it. They'll people will say to me, well, it's easy for you to say. I mean, it's not that easy. I've been applying and it's really hard. Yeah, of course it's hard. That's why I mentioned you have to create very specific, well-written, eloquent, exceptional paperwork. Your cover letter, your resume. If it's bland and average and dull, then you're not going to get anywhere with it, because everybody wants the exceptional. I want an exceptional plumber. I don't want an average plumber who doesn't know what they're doing. I have to pay to come out here. My stuff is still clogged. I still can't use my bathroom. I want the person who knows what it is, sees what the problem is, has all their tools or whatever it is they need to do, fixes my plumbing, an efficient and a reasonable time for reasonable fee, and then is gone. And my problem is fixed. That's what I want. That's what I need. Everybody wants that. So when someone's hiring for your job, they're not hiring you because of your wonderful personality or because of, how funny you are. They're hiring you for the skills. What can you do for them? And you can deploy your skills. Sometimes you deploy a whole bunch of your skills. Sometimes you deploy one skill. Sometimes you deploy it in a part-time or distributed or virtual. Sometimes you deploy it in a full-time, job. I mean, it's whatever you want, or a combination of that. You have right now a whole entire inventory of things you can sell. But like I said, when I work with people on this and they do get angry. Ugh. And I will break it down for them and show them, look, you could go do this part-time. You could earn $500 a month extra right now, exactly with the skills that you have. And a lot of people overlook the most important skills. The more, it's supply and demand. So if you have a skill that's a bit rare, then obviously it's worth more. Languages are really important. If you've lived and or worked in a lot of international locations or different parts of the planet, that's incredibly helpful. You need to use your skills. Again, I'm amazed by the people that I speak with who tell me and can prove it. They speak 3 and 4 languages. They're not even using it. It's not even on their resume. What? Look on the show notes. So this is episode 164. Go to CourtneyAnderson.com, page episode 164. There's a quote there. The first quote says, "You are your best and only advocate when applying for a job." You are your best and only advocate when applying for a job. I want you to just highlight and underline that. You. We've been talking this whole time, talking about you, your preferences, that first list, your second list of your exhaustive list of skills, right? You are your best and only advocate when applying for a job. Why? Because everybody else has their own issues that they're an advocate and focused on. You're the only one that's there for you. The person who's interviewing you has a specific need that they're trying to get met. They also have other stuff in their life. What's going on later today, or they're hungry, their grandmother make it okay when she took her trip. I mean, they have all kinds of stuff going on in their head. So you're not at all a priority. You're in that moment, they'll focus, but we're trying to find that perfect match. Just like when you hire a plumber to come help you. You have a specific need. It's the same thing on the job market. What's the need they have, and what is it that you have that's one of your skills or a combination of your skills that you're going to pull out of your inventory list and dazzle them with? There's nobody else that can do this. This is all you. And one of the things in the show notes, the next couple of links, they're all about this idea, and we covered some of this in another show. It's all this thing about faking it and the whole idea of confidence, right? So look on the show page. There's an article out of Ireland from the Independent, and this is the headline of the article. It says, "Confidence gap. He thinks he can. She thinks she can't." That's the title, which I think is awesome, descriptive, concise. And then this is the same article, right? So there's a link in the show to the Irish paper. So here's the quote. Okay. A few years ago, the computer giant Hewlett-Packard, HP, which is also one of our show sponsors, I had to add that. Please see the links on our website. Computer giant Hewlett-Packard found that their female employees applied for a promotion only when they believed they met 100% of the job requirements. The men were happy to apply when they thought they could meet 60%. Okay, this is everything. What do I mean? If you think you can, then you think you can, and you might be able to. If you think you can't, then you can't and you won't. If you don't apply for the job, you 100% aren't going to get it. If you apply for it, I don't care if it's 1/2 of 1%. It's possible you might get it. And you're light years ahead of where you are by not applying. What you do is this. Everything on your inventory, your skill inventory list, is a job you can apply for. You can take individual things, you can combine things together, and you take all of those and you throw your mind wide open. I don't care what you do. I don't care what you've chained in. I don't care what you've been doing. I want you to look at that first other list about your preferences. And whatever it is that's driving you to go out and want this new job means you want some change. Obviously, if where you were right now was exactly where you wanted to be, then you wouldn't be looking for a job. You might want change because the organization you're working for is great. You like it, everything's fine, but they're having layoffs. And you're concerned that for even though you would like to stay, there's not going to be an opportunity for you to stay. That's a change. You'd like to try to get a different environment where you think it might be more stable. If you don't apply, you don't get it. This is basic. You must apply. And here's the thing, the only person who's holding you back from adventure and excitement or stability or whatever it is that you're interested in is you. This to me, and I don't want to focus so much on this gender issue so much because it is important, and I understand exactly where the research is coming from, because different gender groups get different messages in society, right? And so some people believe, that they don't deserve it, that they're not good enough, and that they have a different frame of reference for how they see themselves. Other people believe like they can do whatever they want to do, and they get out there and they just apply, and they believe in themselves, and they have energy, and they have their skills. Remember, the skill inventory list is honest and authentic. You don't lie and pretend. You have to tell the truth. Otherwise, you're a fraud. So, you just have a lot of different skills. The thing is, you don't usually think about all those different skills you have because you take them for granted. You cannot wait until you think you have 100% of the qualifications because you're being unrealistic. First of all, everything that you go out in life and do, there's all these unknowns. So what's happening behind the scenes at the organization? Is there another candidate they already have picked? What's going on in an individual person's mind, who's reading your cover letter, or who's interviewing you. So you don't have any control over any of those variables. That's why you have to cast your net wide, because you're trying to find that relationship, right? Where what you're looking for and what they're looking for matches up to some level. And that's going to be just a numbers game. You have to get out there and have more at-bats. And I'm not an athlete, but you have to get out there and take more opportunities at swinging so that you can get one good hit, right? And that means you need to be up there swinging. So you're going to, like I said a while ago, the majority of things that I've ever heard for anything I've ever applied for, no. Mostly the no is silent because most people don't even bother to send you a polite no, but no, you don't hear from them. That's okay. I'm only looking for the few hits. I only need a few hits. In many instances, I only need one hit, but I need to be at bat. And people just put this weird fence. Well, before I was in accounts receivable, I'll just apply only for accounts receivable. You have other skills. You're trying to open up all your different skill inventory opportunities because you don't know where the hit's going to be, because you don't have any control over all these other variables. You need to be there. And it's exciting and invigorating when you do examine these new opportunities and think, wow, I hadn't really thought of that, but hey, this is really great. Or you may try something and realize, I hadn't thought of this and I don't like it at all. And I'm taking it off my inventory skill list because I don't want to do it again. But at least you know you can do it. There's a final quote here on the show notes, and I'm going to right here. Okay. From the same article from Independent in Ireland. Okay. Underqualified and underprepared men don't think twice about leaning in. That's the whole idea of leaning in, right? Like, I'm going to be assertive. I'm going to be there. I'm going to try and make it happen. And this is talking about some authors of a book about confidence, right? Overqualified and overprepared. Too many women still hold back. Women feel confident only when they are perfect, are practically perfect. And what's the problem with that? We've talked about this challenge with the concept of perfection. The problem is that perfection does not exist. And even if it exists, it only exists for little slivers of time. So you were the perfect athlete at that event, at that Olympic game, and that's it, because it's not going to stay, because in the next game it could be someone else, and eventually it will be. You're not going to stay perfect. There's snapshots in time. So if you think that you're going to be perfect, then you've already failed. There is no perfection. And what this is fear. It's that same weird fear that I talked about a long time ago when I said that I'll ask somebody, what do you like? Do you like to work outdoors or indoors, standing or sitting? I don't know. You do know. It's fear. Some sort of weird fear is preventing you from even being honest about what you actually feel, what you prefer. How odd. What happens with the inventory list? Fear. Well, before I was accounting clerk 3, so I just think I could apply only for accounting clerk 3. But I could sit here and make you an inventory list. You have 74 different skills. Yeah, but I'll just apply for accounting clerk 3. Okay. You can do whatever you want to do. This sort of my passion and sort of, you know, engagement is only when I'm talking to somebody who is unhappy. And the whole purpose of this show and all of the coaching and corporate education and everything I'm doing is to fix it. Part of that's my own personality, predilections. I like to fix things. I like systems. So when you're telling me you have a problem, I'm trying to fix it. If I'm giving you here all these different options and you telling me you refuse to apply for any of them except for accounting position 3, then what can I do? Nothing. You've sabotaged yourself. You built that weird little fence and you refuse to leave it, that little fenced area, even though it's not working. Right? You haven't gotten any offers, or the ones you got were awful, or you've been out of work for a long time, or you're in a job but you're miserable and you're bored and you hate it and your stomach hurts every day, but you won't change. And I can't do anything more than create these programs and these solutions to try to beg you to take the responsibility for your own life. I have literally listened to people who have multiple college degrees tell me why they can't apply for jobs. And they'll do that. They'll pull it. I'll say like, hey, here's a job description. You should apply for this. Oh no. One of the qualifications asks and says they'd prefer someone who has 5 years of experience. I only have 2. So you're not going to apply at all? No. That is so frustrating. And it is so limiting. It is so self-destructive, and it is so illogical. If the quote from the article said that in that research, the men would apply, and again, this isn't gender specific completely. There are women who do this, and there are men who do this too, and everybody else. I mean, this is specific to the person in your own sort of constellation of fears and apprehension. I apply. If you have 10%, apply, because you never know when. It just so happens that the pool of applicants that showed up, everybody else only had 9%. And your 10% was more than anybody else had. And your timing, unbeknownst to you, you never would know this, it was right what it needed to be. And your energy and the specific experience you brought to the interview was exactly what people wanted. So before you know it, boom, you got the job. Because you don't know if the other people applying have 9% of the experience or 2% or nobody else applies, or the people that apply didn't even read the listing at all, don't even understand what it was the job entailed. You don't know any of these things. And so getting out there and saying, well, I don't know what the other team will do, so I just won't show up at all to play, is the most self-destructive and painful. It's painful. That's why I'm so passionate. It pains me. It really does. And again, this is something I have to continue to work on, right? I do understand that it's your life, and you're going to do exactly what you want to do, and I understand that, and you're an adult, and I do respect your choices. What I'm begging you, though, is if there's something that you aren't happy about and you want to change, then just do it. Make the first list of your preferences. Make the second list of your exhaustive inventory of skill list. And then get out there, and you need to apply for any and everything that relates to either of those lists. You don't know how it's going to shake out. You have not a clue where the timing is going to be exactly right. But when you don't show up and you don't try, then you made your decision. Your decision not to apply is a decision not to create new opportunities, not to see what you're capable of, and to stay in the exact same space, complaining of the exact same thing for, in many instances, the entire rest of your life. That is your choice. I don't concur with that because the outcomes are so negative. You get all these angry, disappointed, bitter people, and it's so easy to prevent. It's totally free to make your lists of preferences and your inventory of skill lists. I hope that this show got you thinking. I am imploring you to take this seriously. If you have any questions or concerns for me, contact me and let me know. Thank you for joining me today.